Hello there, this is James the Scorpion 1978, and although this video is at least 5 years overdue because almost every YouTube atheist has now long since moved on to fighting side by side with white American Christians to protect their delicate white boy feelings by defending the white cishet patriarchy, hashtag Western civilization, from the rampaging hordes of leftist Muslim feminazi SJWs, since the new year I've been reading far too much about the origins of Christianity, and although I'm not a theologian or religious scholar and have no desire to devote the rest of my life to studying these issues, so any Christian who does click on this video will be free to dismiss it as the ignorant brains of an atheistic fool, everything that I've read about the origins of the Holy Trinity screams from the rooftops that it's the most absurd example of doublethink that I've ever come across, because far from being a declaration, position, or even belief in and of itself, it is instead a totally political fudge, imposed in a desperate struggle to prevent a cataclysmic split in the Roman Empire by inexpertly mashing together the mutually exclusive absolutes that in order for Christ to have died for our sins, which is after all the entire basis of Christianity as most of us know and understand it, A, he had to be human because God can't suffer, but at the same time, B, he had to not only be divine, but an aspect of God himself, not created by God from nothing like the rest of creation or even similar in substance as Arians and countless other heretical sects claimed, because only the sacrifice of God to himself could possibly cover the debt, so therefore Jesus had to be God, but he can't be God, because God can't suffer, meaning that Jesus had to be human, or at the very least a lesser divine being, but that can't be the case either, because if he was simply God role-playing as a human, or who inhabited the body of Jesus up until his crucifixion, as the Sabellians and Docetists believed, then his sacrifice wouldn't have counted. And because of the core belief that Christ's crucifixion redeemed humanity somehow, since how can you sacrifice yourself to pay for another being's crimes? But anyway, because that doctrine is so fundamental to the entire concept of the Christianity that won that ancient and long-forgotten theological war which raged for centuries, instead of simply discarding the premise like the countless early Christians who never even adopted it to begin with, believing in Gnosticism and so forth, Orthodox Christian theologians have spent the last 2,000 years twisting themselves into mental pretzels, explaining the exact nature of how Christ was, but wasn't, but is, but isn't, but definitely is, but definitely isn't, and that any claim to the contrary is heresy and anathema, even going so far as to commit genocide against the Cathars of southern France in the early 1200s, to the extent that most modern Christians aren't even aware that other versions of Christianity ever existed at all, and thus, because it is presented to them as being the single, absolute, defining truth that is the basis of their faith, never even stopping for a moment to consider that the Holy Trinity, which they take for granted, is just as much of an impossible and self-contradictory illusion as M.C. Escher's infinite staircase.